Hey everyone, Gill Gross here. Live tennis is back, so let's talk about it. Now, it was actually back last week. You had the German something point exhibition series, and I thought about making a video back then. I was probably going to say something along the lines of, okay, cool. It's good that they found a way to play some tennis, to film it, to do so safely with social distancing. On the negative side, it really wasn't a consumable product. It was the level of play wasn't high enough, the production wasn't high enough, the intensity wasn't high enough because it was kind of like a Division 1 college level without the intensity. It it wasn't sellable. You could not sell that product. This was a lot better. Starting today, it was the My UTR Pro Series. UTR, the sponsor, is Universal Tennis Ranking. The main sponsor was Tennis Channel, which makes me think that Tennis Channel doled out some money to financially support this event. And obviously, that comes with some distribution problems. So I'm going to set the scene, I'm going to describe it, because I know that a lot of people outside the United States, if you're not in Germany, Austria, or Switzerland, I believe are the three countries, you could not have possibly streamed this legally. So let me set the scene. This is how it worked. A friend of Tommy Paul's and Riley Opelka, and they're good friends. They live together. They train together all the time. They know a guy with a tennis court on his property in Palm Beach, Florida. It's a wealthy area on the eastern side of Florida. I don't know if anyone cares about this. Anyway, they know a guy. He's got a court. That's where it was played. It was a single court. You could tell it was at someone's house. The social distancing or the safety measures that were implemented, one was very interesting. The most interesting one is that each players had a set of balls that they could serve, and they were marked with Sharpie. So that made it so that both players were not handling the same balls. They had personal balls. Very simple. And that was actually not a measure that was taken in Germany, I don't believe. Some other things were like, okay, they would not walk out at the same time. They would not get too close on the changeovers. There were no ball kids. They got their own balls. There was only one lines judge who watched the service line, which is the most difficult line to call when you're dealing with serves. So you had one lines judge, but the lines judge was actually outside of the court, fair distance away, on the other side of the fencing. One chair umpire. So essentially you had three people on the court, the two players and the chair umpire, the lines judge just off the court. You had all the players. It was a round robin tournament. You had Riley Opelka, Tommy Paul, Hubie Hurkacz, and you had Misha Kecmanovic, because apparently that's his nickname. I knew him as Miomir, but you had Kecmanovic. So those were the four players. They played round robin, fast four. Am I botching the name of that? Fast four scoring, first to four, best of three, tiebreak at 4-all, no ad scoring. So you had that kind of turbo format, which was just to protect the players physically. So that was kind of it. One of the main perks of the production was that Tennis Channel was able to put cameras where people would normally be sitting. The camera angle was wonderful. It was basically the most expensive seat in the house. Think Legends box at Wimbledon. First row, right behind the baseline, right over the fence. That's where the cameras were, one on both sides. You also had drone footage, which was really clever, really cool, and ultimately the production was cool. The overall feel of things was nice. It was kind of serene. It was like a competitive practice session. Not to mention, those are all pretty good players. The level was pretty good. So the product was acceptable for me, and I was entertained. Now, there's probably another level to it, and that's where I'll bring my editorial in. How do you make this better? Now, well, before I get into that, let's take a step back here. Where does tennis fit in when it comes to the larger picture of getting back to sports during this pandemic? Well, on one hand, tennis is a sport where you can successfully distance. Boom, we got that. That's great. On the negative, on the other hand, you have a very international sport where you are literally traveling every week or every other week at this incredible rate. It's completely global. And that's a big X through tennis, mark against the sport in terms of playing during a pandemic, because traveling is extremely difficult and problematic during this time. So the clear solution is domestic exhibitions, or if you can play domestically, boom, it's the best of both worlds. It's not ideal. We don't want this, but you take advantage of how tennis works structurally, mechanically, which is that you can distance, and then you cut the travel out of it. It's perfect. Now they need to optimize this. Tennis needs to optimize this. And I gotta say, there wasn't that much buzz, and I can't see the ratings. I can only judge from Twitter. There wasn't that much buzz for me. And you guys can tell me in the comments if you knew about this, if you were excited about it, because the return of live sports should be a pretty big deal. I mean, I know they're still playing baseball in Korea, but for the most part, we're having a lot of trouble finding live sports. So this should be a big deal. It didn't feel like a big deal. It didn't feel big to me. So the question is, first of all, why? Why wasn't this a big deal? It could be one of three things. One, distribution. I mentioned this was really a Tennis Channel event, and that's very USA centric. I got that. Two, there's really no stakes. The only stakes that I know of is that the players would calculate the results into their UTR. So if Tommy Paul is concerned about his universal tennis ranking, then maybe he had a bad day. But other than that, there are really no stakes here, as far as I know, with the players. And then the third thing is maybe these four just aren't big enough draws. And then where's that line? Who needs to be playing for people to get excited about? You can take a more negative view, and you can say like, well, without the big three, I'm sorry, you're just not getting anywhere. Maybe that's the case. I hope that's not it. I'd like to be more optimistic. I'd like to think that you can get top 30 players and be in pretty good shape. So here's what I would propose. Here's what I think needs to happen. And there's a downside to this too. Use the prize fighting model. No round robin, no fast four scoring. Give me one-off matches. And you can make it a series, and you can make it a card, like a fight card, right? You can have a main event, you can have a co-main event. Make one-off matches. Play best out of 3 sets, okay? Do not call it an exhibition. And let's get some prize money in here. If you can market it, if you can get people to watch, then you can get some prize money. If there are stakes, if this is marketed well, pre-marketed, and you can get good matchups, and you can get one-offs, and you can get good players, I really think that this is a chance to explore a different model. I would never want the model that we currently have under normal circumstances to change. Grand Slam tournaments should never change, ever. But is there room for other formats in the schedule? Yeah, probably. Are ATP 250s in good financial space right now? No. Are the low-level WTA events? No, even worse than the ATP. So there's certainly a chance here to experiment. And let's see what we can come up with. But I love the prize fighting model. And I just wanted to throw this out there because that's something that I'm really intrigued by. But all in all, hey, great job by UTR. Great job by Tennis Channel. For me, as a tennis fanatic, this is a watchable product. I really enjoyed it, and I'm happy it's happening. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.